All right, the Pope has come into town. Quite a whirlwind to get you here. Where are you coming from, Philly, right?
Yeah, coming from Philly. We had a day off yesterday, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you spent that time to study
Lots
extra
of
hard.
books. Yeah, I was in the
Yeah,
library a
I'm
lot.
pretty sure of that. And I drove down to Philly and saw my daughter. Unfortunately, her last collegiate field hockey game. She plays at Franklin Marshall in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They played Swarthmore, lost 3-2. So it's my youngest daughter. It's the last time I'm going to go see one of my kids in a sporting event. Kind of a weird, kind of surreal experience. Always on the other end, as a coach, when the season's over and it's always the end of, one or two or five guys' career.
Mm-hmm.
And as a coach, you feel really melancholy. But when it's your own child, it's even more melancholy.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, the day I'm a senior and, like, I'm just not a part of a team anymore. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the main part. It's not even, like, the basketball part of it. It's just, like, having that routine every single day. It's like I wouldn't even really know how to fill my time if I didn't play sport here.
Absolutely. At the end of every season, and I'm blessed. I get to do something I love every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And every single day I go to work and have fun and around young people, which hopefully helps keep me somewhat younger. But when the season's over, I go into a funk, for a little bit of time. It's just whether it was an unbelievably good season, whether it was a less successful season, because you've invested so much energy and time, and you form such a close bond with those, in your case, your teammates, or in my case, the guys I'm fortunate enough to coach, and it just ends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sudden, and unless you win the national championship, your season ends with a loss.
Right.
And that's, very, very challenging for anyone.
I remember my senior year of high school, because I would always go right from the winter season right into AAU, and there just wasn't an AAU season to go into. So I remember there was just, like, such a lull once I lost that final game that I just, like, it was weird. You were just, like, roaming around your house. There's nothing to do. I don't know. That lull is, like, it's an interesting spot. But being a senior, I don't know. I knew I was probably going to play again in college, like, if I came here. But I don't know. Giving it up, it's got to be, it's going to be a weird time when that day comes.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. And then, obviously if you're a senior in college, not only you've done playing
right, then the
collegiate
real
sports, you're like,
headache
oh, what am I
begins.
going to do for a job?
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's really easy for you guys to say, wow, this stinks. I got a long practice. I got a 12-page paper. I got a midterm. You'll miss these days when they're all gone. And so it's just an unbelievable opportunity for what my daughter went through, what all of you guys get to go through. And when it finally ends, there's an emptiness for sure.
You ever package seeing her in Lancaster and going to Spooky Nook? Because you probably spent a lot of time there too.
I didn't. I went to Spooky Nook and took her to visit Franklin and Marshall. Like she came with me on a recruiting trip.
Really?
But I've been to Spooky Nook. Yeah, there's tons of AAU
Too many
tournaments
times.
there all the time. Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of the whirlwind that it was getting you here, I feel like that's kind of indicative of how it's been. I feel like you've just been so busy the day you got here. So just like taking it back, when was Holy Cross? Like, when did you know that this was even a thought in your mind?
I think the day that the job opened,
Mm-hmm.
Holy Cross, I coached against Holy Cross. When I was a head coach at Williams, we came down here and played Holy Cross and actually won the year after we won a national championship. And then obviously we were fierce rivals for 7 years when I was at Bucknell. And, I spent a lot of time in New England. Love New England, have so much respect for Holy Cross as a school, academically, and then certainly the basketball program, with a national championship, an NIT championship, Bob Cousy, and, all the great players that played here. But even when I first got to Bucknell as a head coach and coached against Coach Willard, and he was off, 3 or 4 Patriot League titles, And that guy was as good a coach as anyone I ever coached against. I mean, unbelievable. I felt like he was playing chess and I was playing checkers. And so there's just such a great tradition. And so it just fit me. If I was going to be a head coach again, I wanted to be at a school where I'd want one of my daughters to have attended. You know, I think that's really the litmus test for me. Is this a institution that I would want one of my kids to go to, and academically, culturally, what's the value structure, and the chance to coach, really good players. We've got really good players who are even better people, and really good student athletes. And this is the blend that I like to coach at. This is the blend that I think more Division I schools and programs should emulate in terms of let's be great in the classroom, let's be great on the court.
Oh yeah, high academic college basketball it's fun. Like, I grew up right next to Lafayette, and I just basically lived at those games in Lehigh, like, as a young kid. And I just felt like it's such a good mix of, like, kids, basketball. And it's also, like, I don't know, it's a good culture. Like, every time I would go to those games, like, the fans would be invested. They're kind of in, like, small towns. Like, I don't know, I just like Major League Basketball. Like, I don't know, I was kind of like a junkie when I was a young kid. I just always ate it up. Did you ever leave the Northeast once you came here? Because you're from, what, Milwaukee?
I'm originally from Wisconsin, Wausau, Wisconsin.
Okay.
But once I went, not much. So I went to school at Williams, so I was in the Northeast.
How was that, like, transition, Midwest to, like, New England?
It was culture shock.
It's still cold in the Midwest, right?
Oh, it's way colder.
Really?
Way colder. Like,
this is nothing to you?
This is nothing. This is nothing. And we're going to get winter. But in Wisconsin, it is brutally cold in the winter and tons of snow. But, it's different. It's just, the Northeast is very different than, I was in a small town in Wisconsin. So it was a tremendous opportunity for me, a growth opportunity. And I've pretty much been in the Northeast corridor. Was a grad assistant in Michigan. Spent 4 years as assistant at Cleveland State, so I was in Cleveland. But then St. Lawrence and upstate New York and Lemoyne and Syracuse and Williams and then Bucknell. And the George Mason in Northern Virginia would be like, the furthest south
of
that.
The end of the Northeast.
But pretty much on the Eastern Seaboard for sure.
How'd you end up at Williams? Just like, have you even ever heard? It's like a small D3 school.
Yeah, it's always ranked, and I'm gonna, if there's other people watching, including our athletic director who went to another NESCAC school, not quite as academically prestigious, and hopefully he sees this, but Williams is the #1 small liberal arts college in America.
Oh, it's a great school. It's where Duncan Robinson went.
Yeah, no, Duncan Robinson said it's where Dave Paulsen went, and that's
right.
Well, let's get our perspective.
Granted, yes, of course.
But I wanted to go to a great school, and I want to play Division III basketball. My brother was in law school at Yale Law School, and one of his really, really good friends had gone to Williams. And it's interesting. This is pre-internet, okay, pre-cell phone. Ben, this is a few years back. He hand wrote me a couple letters telling me what a great place Williams was. It was really interesting. Here was an alum.
They had mail delivery back.
They had mail delivery. It was usually like a horse.
That's what I thought, horse-drawn carriage.
Yeah, horse-drawn carriage would come and deliver the mail. By the way, practice is at 4:30 today, just so you know. And there might
be a track meet.
Just for one or two sarcastic members of the program.
Now, for those sarcastic members and others wondering, in that cup down there, is there Mountain Dew in it? No. Or is there Diet Mountain Dew?
There's not Diet Mountain Dew.
No Diet Mountain Dew?
There's Diet Mountain Dew up in the office. Courtesy of...
That was actually my first impression of you ever. Before you even got there, I walked up because I was, like, getting a snack. And I was like, is he here yet? Like, is the guy here yet? And I was like, no. He was like, there's just a 6-pack of Mountain Dew sitting on your desk. And I was like, why is that there? And he was like, I don't know. The guy likes Mountain Dew. And that was it. That was the first, impression.
Now, it's Diet
which is a great impression to make. Right, it
was
Diet.
Now, so if you have any kind of charisma and we get some viewership, let's not forget that the president of Pepsi Company is a Holy Cross grad.
Is he really?
She.
Is she really?
There you go. There's your first mistake. Okay.
I don't want to get canceled.
And when we go to NIL, All right, the
You might
first
be-
NIL deal
yeah.
should go to me with Diet Mountain Dew, and so we just got to see. But Nick Smith, our deputy athletic director, he delivered a case of Diet Mountain Dew just last week in a little fridge, which is great. It keeps me hydrated, caffeinated, because you don't want me
No.
losing my zip. At
No, I
practice,
don't.
man.
I don't think it's possible for Paulsen to not have zip.
Well, I hope not. You know what? Like,
Do you credit the zip to the Mountain Dew? Were you ever just a coffee guy?
I'm a coffee guy in the morning.
Okay. When does the coffee and the dew begin?
10:30, 11. Yeah. It's like a segue. I've tried to cut back. I was down to one a day until we started our full 20-hour week thing, and then it kind of went out the window. 1 year for Lent,
Ooh, that'd be a good thing to give up for Lent.
I tried. In my first practice, I was a head coach at Lemoyne. And, you guys know, you guys don't hear a thing I say when I say this is how we're going to guard ball screens or this is what play we're going to run. You guys completely forget that.
Well,
And
they
you know
forget.
what? Well, okay.
When I'm watching them.
But if I ever mispronounce a name or say something, misspeak, you guys never miss that. And you always notice what I bring in. And I walked into practice that day and I didn't have Diet Mountain Dew. I just had a water. And the guys in the Lemoyne team were like, what the heck is going on? And we practiced, and about 45 minutes in, this is a bad admission, but I had such a headache from lack of caffeine. We had to cut practice short, and that was the end of that Lent.
Wow.
That was the end of that Lent season.
So maybe it's more of a superstition thing.
It might be.
It's not even like a vice, or it's just a superstition.
I think it's a superstition.
I can respect it more. I can get it then.
Well, most of my life, or since I've gotten here, Ben, is just trying to figure out how do I garner Ben's respect.
Well, yeah.
You know,
I mean, that
I'm thinking to get bracelets made, WWBD. What would Ben
what would
do?
Ben do? Yeah.
I don't know if we can do that.
We
We'll
could
try.
maybe do maybe the warm ups this year.
Yeah, we got to ease into it.
Yeah.
We got to ease into it a little bit, Ben. Yeah.
We got to pace ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about something normal. What was it like? What was your order of events? Because I remember those first few weeks. I remember actually feeling a little bit bad for you. You always just they ran you dry. I mean, was that kind of more hectic than any other hiring position, or is that just par? I wouldn't really know. This is my first time around it.
It's pretty par for the course because when you take over a program, as a head, at a certain point in time, everything's not quite as urgent. In a couple of years when we've established this program, we've built a winning tradition, and our roster's more stable, our staff's more stable, engagement with alumni is more stable. I know the administration. But literally when you start over, and the first thing and the most important thing, because I remember when Kid Hughes, our athletic director, called to offer me the job, and I accepted it, and he said, do you want to get on a Zoom tonight with the guys and the team? And I said, no, I want to drive up tomorrow. I want to meet every single guy for 30 minutes.
That was really
because I didn't want your guys' first introduction to me at a press conference. I didn't want to meet, no offense, I didn't want to meet with the president before I met with you guys. I didn't really want to meet with the budget person or alumni. That was all going to happen. But the single most important relationship that I have is with, you and your teammates. But getting to know all of you guys as people, as students, as players, and if you're in a relationship business, that requires considerable amount of personal time invested.
No, yeah, I thought that was one of the classiest moves because you met with everybody from Bo to me, and you gave 30 minutes of your time, probably on one of the busiest days you've had in years. That was a really that was a vet move.
But I do remember Nick Smith, our deputy athletic director. He's awesome, and I'm schedule me. It's a 2.5 hour drive up. So
where were you living at?
I was living in Danbury, Connecticut.
Is that outside? Because Fordham's right in the Bronx.
Yeah, so I was commuting an hour plus to the Bronx.
Really?
Yeah, every day.
Did you didn't want to live in the city?
Well, it's
Well,
not.
budget-wise,
There's a budget, right? Okay, you're going to find out all this stuff when you graduate.
I was assuming that after graduation I can still text mom for like a $20 Venmo, but does it not? Does that not work?
Ultimately,
Because I'm not sure.
hopefully
Holding
that
on to
runs out. I do have a 28-year-old daughter who has been known to still use my credit card from time to time. So
Me and my brother are running our course right now. We're probably gonna get kicked off the plan soon, or after she sees this, because she's probably done with that.
I think if she's listening, cut him off right now. Cut him off. But what I was going to say about the job is to get to meet all of our guys, to hire our staff, and I think we have like an unbelievable coaching staff. The first order of business was to retain Coach Evans. He's was a great player at Holy Cross, loves Holy Cross, phenomenal teacher of the game.
Most importantly, didn't you say he dropped like 30 on you?
I mean, allegedly. No, and after I hired him, now he waited till I said, okay, yeah, I want to keep you on staff. Then he showed me a picture when he was a freshman, and he had stolen the ball late in the game, and Holy Cross had beaten Bucknell. There's a picture of him holding the ball going like this, and there's a picture of me somewhat disgruntled in the background, and he made sure to show me that. But despite that, I kept him on staff. But he's been phenomenal. Bryson Johnson, was the best shooter I've ever coached, was an All-Patriot League player, academic All-Patriot League guy. So they have two former All-Patriot League players who've gone through it, who've excelled in the court, in the classroom, is really great. Getting Coach Rawlings, he is as organized and detail-oriented as anyone around.
Very detail-oriented.
And then to get Colin Ritchie, and then Aaron Patterson, who is
who is the backbone of this program.
Aaron Patterson,
Colin Ritchie and Aaron Patterson.
They're the best. They do no jobs too big, no jobs too small, and they're what allows me to function at least as well as I can, and really make things smooth for you guys.
Was it weird your first few days here being a head coach, coming from being an assistant after being a head coach you were a head coach for like 20 straight years?
27 straight years, yeah.
So was that like a weird gap, or right when you were back, you were like, all right, that was a weird dream. Now I'm back to what I've been doing for the last 27 years. Or was there like a lull?
No, I mean, I'm wired to be a head coach. I wanted to be a head coach. I will say.
You don't say.
I would say this, though. For 27 years, I was a head coach, so, you didn't have a chance to really observe other people.
Right, that's what I mean. Maybe being an assistant
was great.
Gave you a different perspective.
It was great. It was a sabbatical, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. You guys also were really good,
and we were really good at Fordham. And they did some things when I was let go of George Mason, and did a little bit of soul searching. Well, what do I want to do? And I realized this is what I love.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this. I think it's what I'm called to do. How do I get better? I think you can make a choice to get better or get better. And to me, on the Eastern Seaboard, the two best coaches that I admired were Tony Bennett and Jay Wright. Tony Bennett at Virginia, Jay Wright at Villanova. I'm like, if I can go work for one of those guys, that would be great. If I can't, can I go work for one of their disciples?
Mm-hmm.
And had that opportunity to work with Kyle Neptune the first year at Fordham, who came right from Villanova, and then Keith Ergo, who took over. And there's a lot of like the attitude stats and the attitude charts, and some of the stuff that we do now.
Right. If you weren't an assistant, you wouldn't have implemented that in the program. And I feel like that plays a pretty large part in the program. I mean, your decision making, who you're going to play, it's a valuable thing, and you would have never picked that up if you just.
I had always looked around. How do you do some of those things? And they do it in a way that is really relevant to how we play and what we're trying to foster, without it being too cumbersome.
You ever watch Moneyball?
Yes. I read Moneyball first,
Really?
like books, like you could actually read them and then you could watch them.
I didn't know they still make those. I thought they cut those off like whenever.
No, books
whenever
are
you
allowed.
graduated.
Yes.
Would you say that still plays a part in, or not still, but I mean, analytics and numbers are just a huge thing in the age, like in this age with sports and everything. How much does that play in with you? I mean, I know we're probably not doing, to the extent of like what they were doing there, but do you look at numbers as much as and put as much importance on them as they did in that movie and other teams?
I mean, I think, and you can answer that, how much we talk about not giving up, kick out threes.
The whole point of let them shoot a crappy mid-range.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a Moneyball
That's the basketball version of Moneyball. Deep paint shots and threes from an offensive perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like we talk all the time about more games are lost than are won. Like, don't turn the ball over. Take good shots, get back and make teams play against a set defense. Don't let them get out in transition. Keep them off the foul line. So
something that I like that you did, or that you said one of the first practices, is the record last year was what it was, but I think you were like half the games we lost were like under 6 points. And you think about like a 10-22 record doesn't really say you could have been 500 if you would have just like one free throw away, you say one turnover away. That's really like, there's not that big of a margin of gap between the teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, last year, listen, and people ask me about the Patriot League, and I really have not dove into the Patriot League. I've just tried to dive into our guys, our group.
Mm-hmm.
How do we make ourselves better? Watching our practice film. Obviously, Siena now, right? The 2 scrimmages that we had. But I know this, like, that was a 9th place team last year. That wasn't a 9th place talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and we're not there, right? Like we had a really bad performance in one scrimmage, and we had a significantly improved one in another scrimmage, and that I hope we're the latter.
Mm-hmm.
Reality is we might be a little bit 2 steps forward, 1 step back for a little bit.
That's to be expected with
but
a group like this.
But just how do you prevent losing? And you just take better care of the basketball, and you make your free throws, and you get yourself to the foul line. Last year's team was awful at getting to the line. Like any good team gets to the foul line, keeps the other teams off the foul line. Last year's team was a bad rebounding team. You can control a lot of those things. And then I think when you're on a good positive run and you're up and you're going on a 6-0 run, making sure you get it to a 10-0 run by taking great shots, not going for the home run play and throwing the ball out of bounds and giving the other team a chance to get back. And by the same token, if the other team's on a 6-0 run, stopping it right there by, buckling down defensively. So I just think there's managing the game and knowing the game and cultivating winning behaviors or eliminating losing behaviors that I think are as important as, this guy getting better on his jump hook and this guy getting better on his pull-up jump shot.
How differently do you run this program than Bucknell's? Because you basically have the answers to the test of how to win the Patriot League. So is it as simple as doing what you did there and placing it here? Is every team and program and kid different, and it's as different as you went? You know what I mean? Like, know how to win. Is it as simple as just putting that program here?
No, I mean, it's different. So it's a different era. Okay, so when I was at Bucknell, teams still traditionally play with three on the perimeter and 2 inside. It was the quote unquote 4-man was much more of an around the basket guy.
Mm-hmm.
Analytics weren't as big a deal. I think the percentage of shots nationally that came from 3 were probably 30 or 31%. As opposed to maybe 37% now. So
I'm not even kidding. This wasn't the 1800s. So what year did you leave?
That was 2015. So it was 8 years ago. Wow. So it was different. So how the game was played. So much of what we do trickles down from the NBA. The NBA's evolved. Different techniques, different ball screen defensive techniques, different offensive systems. So the game's changed a little bit. I think the fundamentals of having a winning team, one, you got to recruit really good players, and But more importantly, you got to recruit really good players who are gym rats, who are hungry to be good players, but who also want to be part of a winning program. Not just guys who want to put up stats and gaudy numbers, but who really, really want to win and really care about that primarily. I think we really put a premium in recruiting when I was at Bucknell, and we will here on toughness. We really want to put a premium on basketball intelligence, basketball IQ. We really want to put a premium on leadership. So I think in addition to how big is a guy and how fast is he and how well does he shoot the three or whatever it might be, that's really important. I think it's also really important we've got to recruit kids who fit at Holy Cross, not just that are good players or quote-unquote Patriot League level players, but we need guys here who are completely enmeshed in the fabric of the Holy Cross community. I think that's just critically important on every facet in terms of our standing with the other students here and in terms of our standing with the faculty and our alumni base. I think in terms of, retention efforts, to find a really good players and keep them here. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the things. I try to get really, really good offensive players and gently cajole them into playing defense. Gently and cajole, yes. So
when you got here, you probably had a massive to-do list of stuff you had to do. I mean, you had to turn a program around. But did you know you wanted to go out and get? You got 3 more freshmen? You got that?
Yeah, well, I mean, Khalil had been committed,
Khalil
but we brought him back. Joe Nugent had signed, but again at that point, any one of those guys, Joe could have asked out. So we brought Joe and Khalil back on campus for official visits, let them know that we really, really wanted them, and then we're able to recruit to scholarships DeAndre and Declan, and then late in the summer, AJ.
Mm-hmm. Did you know was that in your mind? I want to go get 3 more guys? Yeah.
Well, we had
a lot of open scholarships.
We needed. My goal, Ben, would be that this is a place where we do not swim in the transfer portal a lot. I think Holy Cross as an institution is a place where kids should take advantage of 4 years here, academically, culturally. I think.
Were you always like that?
Yes, I just believe in development.
I do too. I think I hate the transfer portal
and just player development, balancing out your classes. I think if you're trying to build a program around humility and unselfishness, it leads a way to it. And then I think the other thing is just the practical reality. You got to be a pretty darn good student to come to Holy Cross. So if you're in a transfer, you had to have done well in school, taking legitimate classes. Mm-hmm. Does that mean we'll never take a transfer? No, that doesn't mean that. And I think certainly there'll be case-by-case times where hopefully maybe myself or somebody else knows the young man, or maybe we recruited him in the earlier, so he's aware of what Holy Cross he is and what it isn't.
How much of your day-to-day job is dedicated to recruiting, time-wise? Obviously in the spring when you're actually there, but I mean phone calls and playing the game.
It's a lot, I would say it dominates my time and my focus from the day the season ends.
Are you personally invested in? I walked on, so I don't really know how the recruiting process is. Because a lot of times when you see dudes post offers, it's thank you to Holy Cross, and they'll put somebody and an assistant, and you would assume the assistant did it. How much are you doing?
So I'm old school. Nobody's offering a scholarship unless it's me.
Really?
So the assistant coaches aren't offering scholarships.
I don't know.
When we offer a scholarship, it means something. A lot of schools hand out scholarship offers like breath mints, and they don't even mean anything. And if a kid tried to call up and say, I want to take this scholarship, we don't have it for you. So we don't offer that many, but we evaluate everyone. we split up our recruiting just from an organizational standpoint, geographically, but all of our assistants evaluate guys. But with the kids that we're recruiting, I am involved every single day. So I would say at least half of my waking moments and thoughts from the end of the season until truthfully September 25th when we started our 20-hour week. It's the most important thing we do. Like, unlike the faculty members here, I get to choose who's in my classroom. And if you get the right people on the bus, then good things happen. And it's not just talent, but, fit. So that's really, really important. We've got 4 really good kids verbally committed to us that'll sign here next Wednesday, I think. And then that allows me to really kind of get tunnel vision on our season, until we get to the end of the season. So very, very much less, and the assistant coaches will do, more of the recruiting activities during the course of the season.
Yeah. And since this is not a Colin Ritchie ran film session, time up means time's actually up. I'm sure this has been your pleasure. I mean, it's probably the best thing you've had to do in a few weeks, I imagine. Just
Ben,
couldn't wait to come
any
here.
chance I get to spend time with you one-on-one? Oh, I'm really excited to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I get that a lot. All right.
Thanks, Ben.